The widowed CEO reveals his true heart after Waitress betrayed by her family. Nathan Reed, the powerful CEO of a tech giant, sat alone in the corner of a diner, his back rigid, eyes staring blankly at a half-finished plate of food. The bright lights buzzed overhead, a stark contrast to the darkness that loomed inside him. He was a master of his world, running the most innovative startup in Silicon Valley. Yet, here he was, racked in sadness so thick it felt suffocating. The air was heavy with the scent of brewed coffee and fried food, but all he could taste was the bitterness of loss. It had been a year since the accident that took his wife, Emma. The reports said it was just that, a tragic accident. But Nathan's gut twisted each time he revisited those thoughts. There was a gnawing feeling in his chest that this wasn't the end of the story. A betrayal lingered, turning his love into a restless ghost that haunted his every step. Just then, a flash of warmth interrupted his "sss." She asked, her voice soft and inviting. He shook his head, but the tremor in his hand betrayed his composure. "No, thank you. Just thinking." Mia cocked her head, sensing the weight of his words. "You seem like you've got a lot on your mind. If you ever want to talk?" Nathan recognized loneliness in her gaze too. It was there, buried beneath the geniality, as if her heart had been trodden on by those she once trusted. He wanted to lean in and share his burden, but a voice inside reminded him that trust was a fragile thing. Days turned into weeks, and Nathan found himself returning to that diner, drawn to Mia's warmth. They shared snippets of their lives. His heartache met her burden of betrayal. Mia had once envisioned a life of dreams with a loving family, only to be cast aside for reasons she was still unraveling. But just as their connection deepened, Nathan received a menacing message. "You didn't really think it was an accident, did you?" The words sent chills down. She had a decision to make: stand with Nathan in his quest for answers, or hide from the shadows of her own family's secrets. He reached for his phone, contemplating the next step, when it buzzed insistently. The screen lit up with an unknown number. One thought pierced through the noise, like a dagger through time. Was this the truth about Emma's death? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's in. Not now. She needed this moment with Ellie, the brief escape from everything else. "Everything okay?" Ellie asked, her brow furrowing in concern. "Yeah, just the usual." Sarah forced a smile, but inside, dread coiled tighter. She picked up the phone. The screen lit up her face, and with shaky hands, she swiped to answer. "Hello?" Sarah's voice felt small, swallowed by the air around her. "Sarah," her mother's voice quivered on the other end, heavy with emotion. "You need to come home. It's about your father." A sharp breath caught in Sarah's throat. "What's wrong?" There was a pause, and then her mother's voice cracked. "He's been in an accident." Panic surged through her, filling the gaps where clarity once was. "What? Is he?" "He's alive, but..." Ellie's hand grasped Sarah's, her own eyes wide with shock. All the friendliness in the cafe, ceramic mugs clinking, soft chatter, faded to a heavy, muffled sound. The walls seemed to close in, squeezing the air from her lungs. "He's in the hospital," her mother continued, voice trembling. "You should hurry." Without hesitation, Sarah dropped the phone and bolted for the exit, heart pounding. Ellie followed closely, confusion etched on her face. "Sarah, wait! What happened?" "He's in the hospital," Sarah repeated, breathless. The words tasted like metal on her tongue. The world outside the cafe blurred past her as they wove through the streets, the commotion suddenly echoing her internal chaos. The hospital loomed ahead, bright and sterile. The coolness of the tiled floor beneath her feet felt numbing. Sarah raced to the front desk, her words tumbling out with urgency. "I'm looking for my father, Tom Jacobs. He was in an accident." The receptionist's face was too calm, sending a fresh wave of dread coursing through Sarah. "Please wait," she said, and turned, disappearing behind a door labeled Emergency Room. Nothing else mattered as Sarah stood there. The seconds felt like hours. Ellie hummed comfortingly, though her own anxiety was palpable. Just then, a nurse stepped into view, her expression grave. Sarah's heart plummeted. "Are you Sarah?" the nurse asked, her voice low. Sarah nodded, dread alive behind her eyes, as the nurse led them away from the waiting area. They walked through endless corridors that felt more like a maze. Each step echoed in Sarah's mind, pounding louder and louder until a voice shot through her thoughts. "How is he?" Sarah blurted, desperate. The nurse glanced sideways, uncertainty flickering across her features. "There's something you should know first." And then it happened. The fire alarm blared, shrill and invasive, cutting through the tension like a knife. Lights began flashing. Urgency surged around them. As people rushed toward the exits, Sarah grabbed the nurse's arm. "What's happening? Please!" Before the nurse could reply, there was a crash, a sound that chilled her blood. A man bolted through the doors, breathless, shouting frantically, "Get back! It's coming! He knows!" The words gripped Sarah tighter than any fear she had known. "What are you talking about?" Suddenly, the nurse's eyes widened in recognition. You have to leave. It's not safe." Then, in that charged moment, just a few feet away, a hidden figure stepped into the light. It was Tom, but he looked different. Eyes wild, face pale, and as he scanned the room, a manic grin spread across his face. Sarah's heart raced, her stomach dropping. "Dad?" But there was something in his gaze, something unsettling. It felt like a betrayal. It felt like dread. "Run!" the nurse screamed, but it was too late. In a heartbeat, everything shifted. The man who had always been her anchor, who had taught her to ride a bike and helped with homework, now stood there, something dark behind his smile. And as sirens blared through the corridors, Sarah's world shattered. She stumbled back, hand instinctively clutching Ellie's, the question spiraling in her mind. Who was the man before her? The door crashed open, and chaos erupted. Sarah could only stare as everything collapsed around her. Tom's grin split across his face, but it felt wrong, like a mask disguising something monstrous. Heart racing, Sarah could barely process reality. This wasn't the father she knew. This was a stranger, cloaked in familiarity. "Dad," she whispered, yet the word caught in her throat. His eyes flickered with something dark, something frantic. "They're coming for you, Sarah," he shouted, his voice echoing through the chaotic scene. Panic surged like a wave, crashing over her. Ellie squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, eyes darting between Tom and the nurse, her breath quickening. "What do you mean, Dad? Who's coming? Run! Get away from here!" he cried, taking a wild step toward them. But the nurse pulled Sarah back just in time. The chaos was thickening, people scrambling for exits, and a sense of dread wrapped tightly around Sarah, like a vice. But before she could formulate a plan, a loud crash erupted from the end of the hallway. A group of men sprinted into view, all dressed in black, faces partially covered. Their presence sent a chill down her spine. "Secure the exits!" one of them barked, causing a fresh jolt of fear through Sarah. "No!" Tom shouted, his voice a raw edge of desperation. "You can't!" Suddenly, one of the men lunged at Tom, and Sarah's heart stopped. The nurse pushed Sarah and Ellie back, her voice urgent. "You need to get out! Now!" Panic turned to blind instinct. Sarah gripped Ellie's hand and tore down the hallway, the sounds of shouts and chaos fading into a haunting echo behind them. They dodged through the frightened crowd, urgency propelling them as adrenaline coursed through their veins. But just as they reached a corner, a loud bang rang out. A gunshot? No! Sarah's heart dropped. They skidded to a halt, uncertain, the air heavy with the remnants of fear. "Did you hear that?" Ellie gasped, eyes wide and darting around. Sarah nodded, stomach twisting with every instinct screaming them to run. They pressed onward, desperate to find safety. Then, amidst the confusion, Sarah's phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Without thinking, she yanked it out, barely glancing at the screen. It was a text from an unknown number, but just one word stopped her in her tracks. "Help." "Who's that?" Ellie breathed, fear thick in her words. I don't know," Sarah stammered. The sinking feeling of confusion swirled inside her as she pressed to open the message. But the moment she did, a new wave of shock washed over her. An image of a face she recognized all too well. It was her father, but younger. And behind him stood a woman. The same hasty handwriting scrawled beneath. "The truth will change everything." "What does that mean?" Ellie's voice shook. Before Sarah could respond, the air around them turned electric. Tom's voice echoed through the corridor. It was no longer a desperate call. It was a deep, solid authority. "Who's threatening my family?" They turned, horror twisting their features as his wild gaze fixed on the men now closing in. He wasn't panicking anymore. He was challenge incarnate. "Tell them to stop," he shouted, his face violent with emotion. Sarah's world shattered. "Dad, what are you—" But then, with a clarity that left her gasping, she realized this wasn't just her father. This was a man who operated in shadows, beneath layers of control she never knew existed. Her heart raced. A betrayal? A secret life? The doubt spiraled in her mind, twisting everything she thought she understood. "Run!" Tom bellowed, shattering her thoughts. But it was too late. The men lunged forward, and chaos erupted once more. In that moment of tangled confusion, a light crackled overhead, and the emergency lights blared, flickering like a terrible omen. A voice shouted from behind as everything blurred into turmoil. Sarah's thoughts scrambled. Who was her father, Really, just when everything felt like it would collapse, the floor beneath them shattered with a deafening blast. Sarah was thrown back, darkness swallowing her whole. And in that moment, life as she knew it ended. The blast sent Sarah crashing against the cold floor, darkness swirling around her like smoke. She gasped, choking on the dust swirling in the air. The world spun, and her heart thundered in her chest. She quickly blinked away the shock. "Ellie!" she shouted, desperately searching the chaos. "Where are you?" A sharp, worried voice replied from the shadows. "I'm here. I'm okay." Through the haze, Ellie emerged, her face pale, lips trembling. They locked eyes, the fear tangible between them. But there was no time. A familiar shout echoed down the corridor, filled with urgency. "Get out! All of you!" It was Tom. His tone was frantic, urging them with a raw intensity that set off alarms in Sarah's head. Heart pounding, they stumbled to their feet and rushed toward him. The darkness recoiled as they dashed past fallen debris, the blaring sirens wailing like banshees, overwhelming her senses. All Sarah could think about was the twisted fate of her father and the men in black. But then, suddenly, there was a new sound. A growl, deep and rumbling. It slithered through the chaos, electric with tension. "What is that?" Ellie's voice shook. "Shh!" Sarah hushed her, straining to listen. The growl grew louder, more menacing. The air thickened around them, as if the walls themselves were closing in, anticipating something terrible. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a shadow moving, crouching low. Her breath caught. It was a figure, dark and hulking. As it loomed closer, the panic surged inside her. Was this another enemy? And just then, in a flash of startling clarity, the figure stepped into the emergency lights. Sarah's blood turned to ice. It wasn't an enemy. It was Tom. But he was different. His skin seemed too pale, almost translucent, and his eyes, oh, his eyes, were wide with something primal, a wildness that sent a shiver through her spine. "Run!" he shouted again, but this time it wasn't just desperation in his voice. It was a warning. And then it happened. A sharp crack pierced the air as the floor began to tremble. The ground quaked beneath them. Sarah grabbed Ellie's arm, terror rising in her throat. "Now!" Tom commanded, his expression shifting from fatherly concern to something more ominous. Before they could move, the air exploded with blinding light, a flash that swallowed them whole. In that instant, time seemed to freeze. Everything turned white, electric and alive, before collapsing into an intangible darkness. When the light faded, Sarah felt cold fingers gripping her wrist. A split second later, and the intense grip turned warm. It was Ellie, eyes wide with fear, searching for answers in the bewildering aftermath. "Are we?" But Sarah's voice was snatched away when a familiar face stepped into view. It was Nathan, standing there like a specter. But he didn't look the same. His gaze was haunted, knowing. He was different too. "Why are you here?" Sarah breathed, bewildered, her heart hammering. Before he could respond, another figure stepped from the shadows. It was a woman. Her heart dropped as recognition washed over her. Emma? The name hung ominously in the air, reverberating between them. The woman's eyes glimmered with a strange mix of sadness and relief. "She's alive." Tom's voice trembled, revealing layers of pain Sarah hadn't considered. "And she's not what you think." What did that mean? Confusion gripped Sarah's heart. The pieces were there, shifting, but nothing made sense anymore. Then Nathan spoke, his voice low and steady, as the chaos faded around them. "You don't know the truth about any of this!" A deep silence enveloped them. The question struck Sarah's mind like a bolt of lightning. What truth? What had they been buried under all this time? And just like that, before any of them could process the weight of those words, the growl returned, deep and menacing. It echoed behind them, growing closer. Fear gripped her throat as everything began to spiral again, each second heavy with uncertainty. Who were they really? And as they turned to flee, the realization crashed down. There were no answers here, only questions and something monstrous lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim its next victim. Tom's eyes locked onto Sarah, and an unspoken urgency filled the air. The moment felt like a cracked glass ready to shatter. Each breath weighted with dread. Time ticked by slowly as the growl echoed. It seemed to reverberate off the walls, swallowing the remaining light around them. "Run!" he shouted again, the raw edge of his voice shaking the cold air. The figures in black pressed closer, their faces obscured. But something shifted in Sarah's gut. She could sense a tangled web of chaos circling them, tightening with every second. Deep breaths, a racing heart. She felt both frozen and frantic. And then it happened. A deafening blast erupted behind them. Instinctively, Sarah grabbed Ellie's hand. She turned to look back, but everything erupted into chaos. The lights flickered and then went dark. Shadows danced around them, deeper than the grasp of fear. In the dimness, she caught a glimpse of Tom, eyes wide but not in panic. "Stay with me," he ordered, moving with surprising calm in the thickening chaos. Sarah followed, not fully trusting what she had just seen flash across his face, a glimmer of something savage, something alive. As they stumbled forward, the air thick with smoke and desperation, Nathan stepped closer to them. His eyes blazed like a storm, determination coiling in his stance. "We have to get out, now!" "Who are they?" Sarah's voice trembled, fighting against confusion. "They're here for you, Sarah!" Nathan's voice cut through the chaos, clear as glass. The message meant something. "They know about your father!" But before Sarah could process that, a figure emerged from the shadows, taller and broader than the others. The men in black stepped aside, parting for this singular force. The moment they did, the room seemed to hold its breath. "Get away from her!" the figure shouted, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She recognized that commanding voice. "Dad?" It slipped out, raw and uncertain. Tom's eyes darkened, and he stepped back, apprehension written across his features. "No, it can't be!" The figure stepped forward into the haze, revealing a wild face, aquiline features, and eyes blazing with an unsettling glow. The resemblance was undeniable. "I am here to save you, my daughter." Shock split the air like glass shattering. Sarah staggered back, disoriented. "What?" A lump formed in her throat as her memories battled against this reality. This was a man she had thought was gone, a ghost haunting her past. Father? In that heartbeat, a darker truth unspooled. Tom's face twisted, Raw emotion danced across his eyes. "No, this isn't the man you remember. He's a monster." The words hung heavy, and everything felt like it was spiraling. Sarah's hands trembled. The growl echoed again, rumbling deep within the shadows, as if calling to the true nature of who they were facing. "All these years, I lived in shadows, paying for what we thought was lost." The man's voice rumbled with a strange intensity. "But I will not let them take you. Not again." Then the unexpected happened. Tom lunged forward, grabbing the man by his collar, anger igniting his every feature. "You don't get to decide what's safe for her. You left because I had to protect you both," the man bellowed, voice shaking the walls as he pushed Tom aside. Sarah felt the world around her crumble as truths spilled like broken glass. What are you saying?" And then her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. "Stay away from her!" The tension snapped, and Tom's rage turned frantic. He raced toward the figure, fists raised. "Listen!" Nathan shouted, pulling Sarah back just in time to dodge the incoming storm. The phone buzzed again, insistent under her trembling fingers. She fumbled to answer, heart racing. "Help!" The voice on the other end was frantic. "Who is this?" No answer. Just a scream, a blood-curdling scream that set every nerve ablaze. And suddenly, the lights flickered back to life, blinding fluorescence illuminating the chaos. And there they all stood. Tom, Nathan, the looming figure, caught in the moment, uncertain. Then it all went dark again. A power failure. As the shadows deepened, she felt her pulse race. Something monstrous lurked, something waiting to emerge. "Sarah! No!" A guttural roar erupted, shaking the very ground, and the air crackled with danger. In the thick darkness, everything shifted. Desperation clawed at her throat, unleashed a surge of primal terror. And in that split second of chaos, Sarah felt the cold grip of betrayal around her heart as she realized the truth. The voice that screamed for help wasn't just a stranger. It was her own. Before she could scream, a much deeper truth shattered the world she thought she knew. Sarah stood there, heart pounding, the fear curling in her stomach as she stared at her father. Or the man who claimed to be her father. The chaos swirled around them, shadows creeping closer. But for a moment, everything felt as if it was held in suspension. "Dad," she whispered, disbelief tangled with hope. "Sarah, listen to me," he growled, urgency etched across his face. "The danger is real. We have to get out. They found us." But confusion gripped her. Tom's pain was palpable. A man torn apart by what he thought was love. And there was Nathan beside her, his expression darkening. The familiar warmth she had felt began to slip away, replaced by the fear of the unknown. Suddenly the growl returned. It grew louder, snarling, echoing from beyond the hallway. Then everything changed. A loud crash erupted from behind a door. The sound was monstrous, like a stampede. Sarah's breath hitched. A figure, massive and shadowy, burst into the room. It was hulking, unnatural, a beast, not of this world. "Get back!" Tom shouted, pushing Sarah away forcefully, instinct kicking in. His face was a mix of fear and desperation. Now! The beast lunged forward, a terrifying mass of fur and fangs. Screams erupted. People scrambled. In an instant, Nathan swung around, shoving Sarah and Ellie behind him. The look in his eyes, a blend of horror and fierce protection, sent a shiver down her spine, and then everything lit up. An explosion of blinding light surged from the creature, illuminating every corner of the room. Whispers of confusion echoed as blaring alarms blared from the walls. Amid the chaos, Sarah shielded her eyes, but deep down, she sensed something more than just a monster. As the light flickered, a face took shape within it. Emma. She was there, shimmering. The truth hit Sarah like a punch. Mom? But it wasn't as straightforward. Emma's gaze bore into hers, fierce and unrelenting, but the warmth was eclipsed by something darker. You need to understand, Sarah. We're not who you think we are. Her voice melted into the cacophony around them. Time stood still again, as uncertainty gripped the room. What are you talking about? Sarah choked out. Then the words fell from Emma's lips like stones. We are all connected to the creature. It's part of our legacy, our true legacy. A weight slammed into Sarah's chest. A legacy of darkness. Could it be true? The piece fell into place like a puzzle. The betrayals, the secrets, the warnings. What do you mean? Ellie's voice trembled, filled with disbelief. Before Emma could respond, the beast howled, a sound that seemed to shatter the remaining glass of Sarah's world. Its howl was senseless, primal, and filled with an unnatural hunger. We have to fight it! Tom shouted, voice rising in a surge of adrenaline. But as he stepped forward, Sarah turned confused, everything she understood distorting. Fight it? It's part of us? In that split second, eyes wide, her mind raced through the truth. The family she wanted to cling to, the lives entwined with shadows. And then it happened. The beast lunged, jaws writhing. In a split second of instinct and fear, Sarah reached out, but instead of falling behind Tom or Nathan, she stepped forward, the realization sparking like fire. No! Stop! Emma's eyes widened as if she sensed the shift. Sarah, don't! You don't know what you're doing! But it was too late. Sarah felt a rush, a surge, raw and powerful. As her fingers touched the beast, a sudden warmth flooded her body, coursing through her like an electric shock. Pain shot through her, memories flooding her mind. Voices screamed, secrets unraveled, bloodlines entwined. The room erupted into chaos as the creature paused, caught between two worlds. A deep rumble echoed as the shadows squirmed, uncertainty rippling through everyone present. No, no, no! Tom's voice rose, but Sarah didn't pull back. What was happening? Who was she really? The truth pierced the air like a knife. Sarah! Nathan shouted, desperation edging his voice. But the connection deepened, pulling her in. The beast thrashed, tethered to her, and in that pulse of energy, something shifted. The beast howled again, but this time it was joined by a voice Sarah recognized all too well. Sarah, help! The room filled with confusion. Everything spun, revelations storming through her like a funnel. And then the world faltered. The darkness devoured everything around her, shadows writhing and twisting. And with a final jolt, Sarah felt herself unravel. In that moment, she understood. It wasn't just her life that was at stake. It was everything. Then the room fell silent. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. And as Sarah stood, heart racing, she knew nothing would ever be the same again. As the air grew still around Sarah, the flickering lights cast erratic shadows. The palpable tension gripped her, and she felt as though time had frozen, encasing her in a bubble of uncertainty. The growl faded into a low hum, vibrating in her chest. All eyes were on her, the weight of their expectation, their fear heavy against her skin. "Sarah, you can't!" Tom's voice snapped her back into focus. But she couldn't respond. The sudden warmth coursing through her felt electric and terrifying. A rush of memories, shadows of the past, collided in her mind. A kaleidoscope of emotions danced. Love, betrayal, confusion, all at once. Emma's haunting gaze pierced through. "You're part of something bigger, a legacy that connects us all," she said, as though every word hung in the air, waiting to be savored. But before she could unravel the truth, the beast surged forward. It snapped its jaws, and a frantic hush blanketed the room. "Run!" Nathan shouted, his voice slicing through the tension like glass. The words struck against Sarah's heart like a warning. Souls intertwined, destinies at stake. Everything she knew unraveled in a single heartbeat. Then the unexpected happened. In a flash, the walls trembled. The lights flickered violently before plunging the room into darkness. The sinister growl erupted, louder than before, threatening to drown them in its predatory clutches. "Sarah!" Tom's voice faded into panic as the creature lunged at him. She felt it all, a swirl of instinct and fright clawing at her. But just as quickly as the silence engulfed them, a blinding flash burst through the darkness. Blurring lines came into sharp focus. From that light stepped a new figure, different from the shadows that haunted them. Tall, commanding, and undeniably familiar. A stranger in a familiar starlit guise. "Stop all of this!" The command shattered the cacophony, reverberating through the chaos. It was a voice Sarah recognized deeply. The figure raised their hands, illuminating the space with an unnatural glow. "Who are you?" Tom dared to breathe, still grappling with disbelief and fear. Then the figure stepped fully into the light. It was her, Sarah's own reflection. Only it wasn't her, the same face, yet held a haunting grace. It stood there with confidence, eyes luminous, framed by an aura that twisted like the creature's shadow. "What?" Sarah gasped, hands trembling. "Don't you see?" The figure's voice resonated, soft yet fiercely clear. "I am you, or the you that could have been, an echo from the future." The room fell dead silent. The impact of the revelation settled over everyone like a shroud. Confusion burrowed deeper, jaws tight, hearts racing. "An echo?" Nathan echoed, mouth agape. "What does that even mean? Everything that's happened, every choice made, leads us here." The future Sarah advanced, piercing eyes turned towards the creature that once clawed at the shadows. "You are all connected to it. You have to embrace it to break free." "But we can't," Tom shouted, the shock bubbling over. "It's eating us alive." The looming figure curled its lips, revealing rows of sharp teeth, infinitely hungry. Fear clawed at Sarah's throat, while the future version of herself remained unfazed. "We can change everything," she proclaimed, each word sending shivers down Sarah's spine. The creature is part of our legacy. Our family's past holds the key. Suddenly, the growl morphed into an echo of laughter, cruel and taunting. The beast lifted its massive head, and to Sarah's horror, its eyes seemed to reflect the very light of the future Sarah. "It knows you," the creature throbbed, its voice low and rumbling. "And it wants you." The shock tightened around Sarah's chest. She felt betrayal seep into her bones. "Wants me?" she whispered, tremors taking over her body. "Yes," future Sarah affirmed, locking eyes with the beast. "You need to choose. Your legacy awaits." But then something extraordinary happened. The creature bowed its head as if acknowledging a master, its eyes glinting. It turned, slinking back into the shadows. Fear morphed into disbelief. "Why?" Tom breathed, confusion swirling amidst the wreckage of understanding. "Because," the future Sarah replied, voice trembling with certainty. "It knows I belong to both worlds, yours and the future's. It's part of me, just as you are." Silence enveloped them, heavy with implication. Sarah felt the world shift beneath her feet. Who was she really? Then, as if the very earth sighed, it all rushed back. Shadows swirled, memories flickering like dying candle flames. And just beyond the veil of uncertainty, the truth unveiled itself. The betrayal lay deeper still. As if the air shattered once more, the follow-up of terrible revelation lingered, dread pooling in her gut. Because everything she thought she knew, everything she clung to, was built on a web of deception far beyond her realization. And in that moment, as the ground trembled beneath their feet, an undeniable darkness seeped into the room, unveiling a choice no one was ready for. Choose wisely. The echo of her own voice carried through shadows that twisted her past, leaving uncertainty stay. Parts racing, they stood at the precipice of truth, and no one knew how deep the fall would be. As the air grew still around Sarah, the flickering lights cast erratic shadows. The palpable tension gripped her, and she felt as though time had frozen, encasing her in a bubble of uncertainty. The growl faded into a low hum, vibrating in her chest. All eyes were on her, the weight of their expectation, their fear, heavy against her skin. "Sarah, you can't!" Tom's voice snapped her back into focus. But she couldn't respond. The sudden warmth coursing through her felt electric and terrifying. A rush of memories, shadows of the past, collided in her mind. A kaleidoscope of emotions danced. Love, betrayal, confusion, all at once. "Don't you see?" The figure's voice resonated, soft yet fiercely clear. "I am you, or the you that could have been, an echo from the future." The room fell dead silent. The impact of the revelation settled over everyone like a shroud. Confusion burrowed deeper, jaws tight, hearts racing. "An echo?" Nathan echoed, mouth agape. "What does that even mean?" "Everything that's happened, every choice made, leads us here." The future Sarah advanced, piercing eyes turned toward the creature they had faced. "You are all connected to it. You have to embrace it to break free." "But we can't!" Tom shouted, the shock bubbling over. It's eating us alive! The looming figure curled its lips, revealing rows of sharp teeth, infinitely hungry. Fear clawed at Sarah's throat, while the future version of herself remained unfazed. We can change everything, she proclaimed, each word sending shivers down Sarah's spine. The creature is part of our legacy. Our family's past holds the key. Suddenly, the growl morphed into an echo of laughter, cruel and taunting. The beast lifted its massive head, and to Sarah's horror, its eyes seemed to reflect the very light of the future Sarah. It knows you, the creature throbbed, its voice low and rumbling. And it wants you. The shock tightened around Sarah's chest. She felt betrayal seep into her bones. Wants me? She whispered, tremors taking over her body. Yes, future Sarah affirmed, locking eyes with the beast. You need to choose. Your legacy awaits. But then something extraordinary happened. The creature bowed its head as if acknowledging a master, its eyes glinting. It turned, slinking back into the shadows. Fear morphed into disbelief. Why? Tom breathed, confusion swirling amidst the wreckage of understanding. Because, the future Sarah replied, voice trembling with certainty. It knows I belong to both worlds, yours and the future's. It's part of me, just as you are. Silence enveloped them, heavy with implication. Sarah felt the world shift beneath her feet. Who was she really? Then, as if the very earth sighed, it all rushed back. Shadows swirled, memories flickering like dying candle flames. And just beyond the veil of uncertainty, the truth unveiled itself. The betrayal lay deeper still. As if the air shattered once more, the follow-up of terrible revelation lingered, dread pooling in her gut. Because everything she thought she knew, everything she clung to, was built on a web of deception, far beyond her realization. And in that moment, as the ground trembled beneath their feet, an undeniable darkness seeped into the room, unveiling a choice no one was ready for. Choose wisely. The echo of her own voice carried through the shadows that twisted her past, leaving uncertainty still spinning in the air. And then it happened. A shockwave rippled through the ground. I know who you are. A voice boomed low and malevolent. It was the creature again. But this time, it wasn't just a growl. It was words filled with dark intent. You all think you know the truth, but the truth is buried far deeper than you think. The lights flickered violently again, illuminating a figure stepping forward from the dark. It was someone Sarah never expected to see again. It was her mother. Mom? Sarah's heart stopped. It was impossible, but the look on her mother's face was stone cold, unyielding. I had to come, her mother interrupted, voice steely. There are things we buried for a reason. Why didn't you tell me? Sarah felt the warmth of betrayal sting anew. You've known all along? But her mother's gaze shifted to the creature. It's not just your legacy at stake. It's mine, too. I can't let you end this now. Before she could finish, The creature lunged forward, a violent blur ripping through the air. "Mom!" Sarah screamed, but too late. The beast roared, and in a flurry of motion, it struck. A flash of teeth, a scream from her mother, and everything went dark. Time seemed to freeze. The room fell silent. The tension exploded, leaving Sarah gasping. "Get down!" Nathan shouted, his voice echoing from somewhere amid the chaos. But it was too late. In that chilling moment, everything shattered. Her heart raced as she realized her mother, the legacy, even the beast. It all hinged on a choice that would change everything. As Sarah stood there, immobilized by shock, all she could think was, what had she truly inherited? The answer loomed in the darkness, like a predator waiting to strike. And in that moment, Sarah understood. This wasn't a story of heroes and monsters. It was a family feud buried in blood and betrayal. And the real fight had just begun. The silence shattered. A crack, sharp and loud. Sarah blinked, her reality twisting like a roller coaster. The creature lunged, teeth bared. Teeth meant to fracture bones and tear flesh. But instead of fear, she felt something else. Power. It coursed through her veins, awakening something deep inside. "Watch out!" Nathan shouted, pulling Sarah back. But it was too late. Something inside her surged to the surface. "Stop!" she yelled, her voice echoing throughout the chaos. The beast halted mid-attack, its eyes locking into hers, confusion flickering where there was once hunger. "What did you just do?" Tom's voice trembled, surprise lining his words. But Sarah couldn't answer. It was as if a door had swung wide open, revealing a truth she didn't fully understand. Memories poured in, flashes of her mother, her laughter, their family secrets like hidden treasures buried beneath layers of pain. "Sarah." Emma's voice sliced through the fog. "You have to control it." The beast shifted, shrinking back, the glow in its eyes dimming. But there was something else. As it stepped back, it revealed a figure, a human form merging with shadows. Sarah squinted, heart racing. Was this another creature? Or the figure emerged, stretching, and her blood ran cold. It was her mother. But she was different, more fierce, the energy around her crackling like static. "Mom?" Sarah's voice wavered, disbelief spinning her thoughts. "Welcome back, my daughter," Emma said, her lips curling into a grin. "You've done well." "What do you mean?" Panic surged through Sarah's chest, tightening her breath. You're one of them." "No," Emma snapped, stepping toward her. "You don't understand. We aren't what you think. We are the keepers of an ancient legacy." The room swirled with confusion. The creature regarded them both, no longer a monster, but something more. A guardian, a protector. "No!" Tom bellowed, fists clenched. "You're lying. You abandoned us. You left us for dead." Emma's eyes darkened, her voice dropping. "I did what I had to. They were coming for us, all of us." "Who?" Sarah gasped, her heart pounding. "Who's coming?" But before Emma could answer, a crash erupted from the corridor, and the door flew open. More figures poured in, dressed in dark uniforms, faces obscured. "Secure the area," one barked, and Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. This was bad. The shadows morphed again. The beast stirring beside Sarah, its eyes glinting like distant stars. "If they find you now, it'll all be over," In an instant, alarms blared, lights flashing erratically, blinding them momentarily. And then, in that breath of chaos, Sarah felt a surge of connection. The creature turned to her, more familiar now than it had ever been. Together, it rumbled, voice deep and resonant. You hold the key. Key to what? She shouted over the din. Your legacy, Emma answered, urgency in her voice. We can't let them take it. Just then, one of the dark figures lunged forward, helmet glinting. Get down, Tom yelled, but Sarah could only stand frozen as an unexpected truth crashed over her. With a sudden, explosive clarity, she realized the creature was not the enemy. It had never been. The enemy was within her own bloodline. Stop! Sarah screamed, raising her hand. But her words hung in the air, and then, with a blinding light, everything changed again. Her mother, a flicker of something else, a flash of betrayal crossed Emma's face, merging with a wicked smile as she transformed. Her body twisted and contorted, shadows swallowing her whole. What is happening? Nathan shouted, eyes wide with terror. This is where the story ends. Emma's voice warped, now a chilling echo, her eyes locking onto Sarah's. In the chaos, a new figure emerged, a doppelganger of her mother, but darker, glaring at them with piercing eyes. You will see the truth. That's when Sarah realized there was never just one legacy. There were layers of darkness hiding in every smile, every promise. This truth was a brutal betrayal, stunning and unrelenting. And as the truth settled over Sarah, the shadows danced, deepening the chasm between them. The ground trembled, and in that moment, she saw it all. A generations-long war, bloodlines twisted in impossible ways. The real legacy being the shadows lurking behind family ties. Run! She screamed, heart racing. But deep down, she knew there was nowhere to run anymore. Everything she thought she knew had just fallen apart, and the fight was far from over. As the darkness surged forward, Sarah felt the weight of her decision press against her, waiting to claim her. The room pulsed with tension, shadows shifting as Sarah's heart raced. The creature stood, caught between them. The echo of its growl still rattled her bones. Her mother's doppelganger glared, venom dripping from every word. You don't understand what you're fighting for. You're wrong, Sarah shouted, voice breaking. You've twisted it all. You're the threat. A flicker of pain flashed across her mother's face, but it was still too late. A scream shattered the air. Nathan lunged forward, grabbing Sarah's arm. We need to go now! The world exploded into chaos again. Dark figures poured in, their presence heavy and foreboding. The creature, now seemingly subdued, turned its eyes toward Sarah, pleading. Help me, it cried, voice thick with desperation. What do you mean? Sarah gasped, caught between fright and something she couldn't quite grasp. Emma, the original Emma, stepped back, her voice a hiss. You can't trust it. It's just trying to find a way back to power. But Nathan shouted, Sarah, it's telling the truth. All eyes shifted back to the creature, uncertainty hanging like a thick fog. Sarah felt the tightness in her chest release just a fraction. What power? She demanded, stepping closer, reaching for understanding. Your bloodline makes you powerful, the creature replied, voice trembling. Together we could defeat the darkness. Chaos erupted. Tom slammed into a wall, deflecting a figure who lunged at them. "Get her out of here!" he yelled, panic igniting his voice. "No!" Sarah cried, watching, helpless. Nathan grasped her hand. "We can't let it end like this!" Emma shoved through the fray, rage flickering in her eyes. "You think you know everything? I've sacrificed too much." For a moment, the world slowed. Sarah saw the hurt etched in Nathan's face. She wanted to scream, to reach out, but she was torn between parents, between legacy and loyalty. Enough! Suddenly, a light flickered above them, illuminating Emma's twisted visage. The confusion lay heavy in the air, as if everything had coalesced into this single moment. "Sarah, embrace your power!" But it felt like betrayal rang hollow in her chest. The once comforting glow felt sinister now. "No, I choose my family, not this legacy of darkness." "Then you choose wrong," Emma shrieked as the creature surged forward, sending waves of energy crackling through the room. With a swift motion, Sarah pulled back, and with every ounce of strength, she shouted, "Together, we end this!" In that heartbeat, everything shifted. The creature let out a piercing howl, its energy aligning with hers. A wave surged, and in that moment, the darkness curled and cracked, setting free the echoes of her ancestors, unleashing an energy that brightened the room and sent webs of light racing against the walls. Tom, Nathan, and Ellie rallied together, shadows dissipating. They shielded each other, support woven through panic. The surge of light intensified, forcing Emma back as she cried out in terror, "No, this isn't how it ends!" The beast surged into the light, enveloped in radiant energy. It was then in that midst of power that Sarah saw it was all connected. The struggle wasn't just between good and evil. It was tied to her family, their choices, their history. The darkness melted away, replaced by light. Emma shrieked one last time, and then it was gone, vanished into thin air. Breathless, Sarah stood there with her family. Tears streamed down her cheeks, no longer for betrayal, but for relief. "Is it over?" Nathan pulled her close, grounding her in possibility. "We did it. We'll figure the rest out together." The room felt different now, lighter, warmer. Voices quieted, confusion fading into unity. They were together, finally free from the shadows, and as they embraced, a crackle ran through the air. The remnants of the battle whispered, "The legacy isn't over yet. There are more shadows yet to be faced." Sarah took a step back, breath hitching. This is where they ended, but also where they began. What does that mean? In that moment of vulnerability, hope mingled with uncertainty. Now, as you close this chapter, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Mash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the magic alive. Flood that comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Let's hear your thoughts. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions.